Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar with Knight Frank. My name is Fern and I am part of the student success team at Target Jobs. And I'm really excited to be joined by Meninda, who is from Knight Frank, and she's going to be talking a bit more about what they do, the kind of business areas that they work in, and just to kind of answer any questions that you guys do have for her. If you do have any questions, then please feel free to put them into the questions tab in the bottom right corner, and Meninda will get through to them at some point during this webinar. But for now, I'm going to pass over to her to kick things off.
Thanks so much, Fern. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope you're all having a good day so far. So like Fern said, today I'm going to give you hopefully a really good insight into Knight Frank as a business. What areas do we cover? What opportunities can you get involved with? What's the kind of culture and feel of the company? And we'll also obviously talk through how you can access real estate and Knight Frank through our early careers programs. Like Fern mentioned, we'll definitely leave some time for Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions as we go through, hopefully I'll answer them all. I've got quite a lot prepared, but if not, do pop them in the questions box and I'll make sure to get to all of those at the end of the presentation. So to start off with, I thought I'd just give a little bit of an explanation of me, my role and where I sit in Knight Frank. So I've been with Knight Frank for just coming up to 7 months now. I joined as an early careers advisor, and as you'll see from the little chart that I've put together here, I sit on the recruitment end of early careers. So basically all that means is I look after all of the attraction for our programs, and I also manage all of the screening of applications. So if you have already applied or you're thinking of applying, it will probably be me that will be helping organise everything for you, along with my colleague Megan in the middle there, who's very recently joined us as our senior early careers coordinator. Just to explain a bit more about the team, so Claire on the end there, she's my counterpart in the development side of the business. So if you were to join us on one of our early careers scheme, you'd have a lot of contact with Claire. She's absolutely fantastic. She really supports all of our graduates through their journey with Knight Frank, making sure that if you're doing things like your APC qualification, that you do feel really supported by the business and you get all the training you need to ensure that you can hopefully pass that first time. And above us all sits Hannah Rolfe. She is the head of talent acquisition and early careers. Absolutely magnificent woman, has a lot of vision for early careers in Knight Frank and where we can move it forward. So hopefully there'll be lots of change as well in our early careers program in the future. But yeah, if you ever have any questions about Knight Frank or early careers, feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. We're always more than happy to help out how we can. Great, so a bit about Knight Frank, first of all. Knight Frank is a global business. Currently, we sit in 53 territories. We have 20,000 plus people on our team. Obviously, not all of those are based in the UK, but as you can see, we have an absolutely huge reach across the world. It's something that's very special to Knight Frank, and if you are someone that is looking for those global opportunities as you grow through your career, joining a multinational company is definitely the way to go. There's lots of growth opportunities outside of the UK, not just inside. So once you finish your grad scheme, there's always the opportunity that you could perhaps move elsewhere in the world with the business. Something you'll hear a lot about if you talk to anyone who works at Knight Frank or has done for a while is something called partnership. So I thought I'd explain a bit more about this because I do think it's something very special about Knight Frank. So as a partnership, what this means is that ownership and management of Knight Frank are shared by a group of partners rather than us being a publicly listed company or solely owned by a single individual. And you might think, why does that matter? Why do I care about that? Well, the thing about being a partnership, there's two kind of points I want to make. One is that we really have shared ownership. So like I mentioned, the partners are the co-owners of the business. They have a direct stake in the firm's success and longevity. So they invest in the business, they share in its profits, they're also responsible for day-to-day management of business areas. I think having that direct involvement in operations means they really do have true accountability, and that shared ownership really means that, like I said, they're really invested in the company's success. The second thing is that joint decision making. So all of the major strategic decisions for the company are made by the partners. And that kind of collaborative approach, I think, really encourages long-term thinking. Like I mentioned, we all have a vested interest in the overall performance of the company. And since we're not being held accountable to outside stakeholders, we have a lot greater flexibility and the ability to really prioritize client service and long-term growth over short-term profits. So I think those are the great things about being in a partnership. And as I mentioned, if you ask anyone at Knight Frank about it, I think it's something we're all really proud to be a part of. And like I say, not just at partner level, but all the way down to early careers, everyone has a really vested interest in working hard, being successful, because that in turn means the company's successful. So I thought I'd talk through the scope of Knight Frank. I think it was on that earlier slide, but we have over 130 different service lines in Knight Frank, which is absolutely massive. I'm not going to go through all of them because we'd be here all year, but I thought I'd highlight some of sort of the key points and what kind of business areas you could get involved with should you join Knight Frank in the future. So first of all, our UK commercial business, we have over 900 people in this business currently. Whilst we do have a commercial business in our London headquarters, which is in Baker Street, we do also have UK commercials offices in cities across the UK. So from the map, you can see the sort of areas that we're based in. The UK commercial business is absolutely huge. You'll see here some of the amazing firms that we service and we work with. And commercial is all about renting, leasing, investing, and developing. So some of the areas we get involved with are automotive, data centers, energy and sustainability consultancy, healthcare, life sciences, logistics and industrial, retail and leisure, student property. That's not even the whole list. We do an absolutely massive range of commercial property. And like I said, work in partnership with some amazing firms. So I thought I'd give you a snapshot of some of the things that our commercial team have worked on in the past that may be familiar to you. So one of these is Battersea Power Station. If any of you have been down to London and seen the new power station development, Knight Frank was involved with this. We were involved in the sale and letting across the whole site, including, as it mentions there, to Apple. Another quite iconic building in London is the Adelphi building. With the Adelphi building, we were kind of involved in two capacities. It was bought with Blackstone. We advised on the refurb and then let it out to Spotify. And then a kind of second chapter in its life, we also let and acquired for Condé Nast, and the office was fitted out by our building consultancy and project management team. So, like I say, involved in many capacities in that Adelphi building project. But it's not just offices we do logistics portfolios. So these are referred to as sheds, even though they're absolutely massive logistical warehouses. But we do business with places like ASOS, who need these huge industrial hubs in order to ship out their product. We also work in renewables. I know sustainability is a very hot topic at the moment, and I will touch on that in regards to Knight Frank later on. But we also completed on a deal for a solar farm in Cardiff for £5 million a while ago. So it's not just, I guess, traditional buildings that our commercial team are involved with. The second, I guess, most well-known half to our business would be the UK residential. I think often when people think about Knight Frank, they do think about the big residential houses, very expensive properties in London, for example, big country homes. So this is the department that deals with all of this. But they really do cover the complete residential development cycle. So the division is operated by land agency, property marketing, and development consultancy professionals. And they really do offer clients a comprehensive portfolio of tailored services across every aspect of the residential development process. So that's all the way from selling the land to someone right through to the sale of new homes and sort of everything in between. And we act on behalf of a lot of different types of clients. So we might act on behalf of landowners one day, developers the next, private funds, banks. We focus on driving value for whoever our client is through that expert knowledge and innovation. So again, I thought I'd just show a couple of examples of residential areas. So as again, like I said, one of our well-known ones is London Sales. So this property was actually at a guide price of 32.5 million that our residential division sold. It overlooks Holland Park, which, if you know London, is a very wonderful area. We also get involved in international sales as well. So this chalet was sold in Maghev for, I think, around 5 million euros. And what's interesting about this one is that our team had to do a Zoom viewing for it. So someone actually bought this property without ever really seeing it in person, which I think is quite impressive on our residential team. We also cover lettings as well. So this is Morley House, which is a flagship development of the Crown Estate. It's something that we're jointly instructed on. So we let in properties such as these. And we also get involved in residential development as well. So this picture here is of a high-spec purpose-built student accommodation in Liverpool, which was sold for around 61.5 million in the end. And again, in the consultancy side, we do dabble in sustainability as well. So this is a wind farm in Scotland, which was a recent instruction for our energy team in the consultancy subdivision. So again, a very varied path through residential as well as commercial. And something a bit fun, I guess, our team in, I believe it was Mayfair, were instructed on selling a singular parking space. So I'm not talking about a whole block of parking, but just one singular parking space in the centre of London. And that ended up selling for £95,000, which is absolutely crazy. And the last division I wanted to put some focus on is our rural offices. They have a bespoke graduate scheme, which I'll touch on a bit later. But they're, again, based up and down the country. We've actually just had a new office added. So we're actually on 11 offices, but this hasn't quite been updated to reflect that. So we provide rural management and advisory services, which are tailored to owning, investing in, and running farms and rural estates. The business really has a deep understanding of owning estates in the rural economy and kind of pieces that together with their practical knowledge of land and estate management. So it's a very bespoke service for those more rural areas of the UK. So property management is one aspect of that. I sort of touched on it. So our rural management team advises private and institutional clients on quite wide-ranging property assets. So an estate might have some pieces of commercial, some pieces of residential, might be a listed building. There's lots of considerations and pieces that come together with managing an entire estate. But our team are absolute experts on that. We also do regular things like leasing and letting in the countryside, landlord and tenant representation, valuation of land, and obviously our country sales. So this is Chilham Castle in Kent. It was built in 1616. We actually put it at a guide price of 15 million, but the eventual buyers of this did buy it for above that, which is, again, testament to our rural team. So who is Knight Frank? That was a bit about actually what do we do, but I wanted to share a bit on, as a company, what does our culture look like? What kind of areas are we focusing in to do with our people? I think it's really important when choosing a company to work for in the future that you really understand how you're going to be supportive and how the company is looking forward to the future in terms of things like sustainability, inclusivity, and culture. So culture-wise, I thought I'd touch on our values. So these are Knight Frank's 4 values: value the individual, collaborate to succeed, make the difference, and commit to partnership. So you might be thinking, what does any of that mean? So I thought I'd dive in a little bit deeper just to explain. So in terms of value the individual, this is really about recognizing strengths in others and recognizing strength in our differences with others. So we want voices to be heard, we want ideas to matter, and people's personal experiences in the workplace is a really big priority. So your advancement is really supported in the firm, whilst also kind of being encouraged to be yourself and communicate in an honest and authentic way. And then collaborate to succeed. This is really about teamwork. I think it's really the driving force behind our successes. There's a lot of cross-team collaboration within Knight Frank, which you'll find if you ever come to do any experience or end up working permanently with us. We never underestimate the importance of working together to achieve a goal. So really harnessing that and sharing and embracing the power of teamwork, and being responsible and accountable for your own contributions within that. We really want to take pride in the collective progress we're making and be able to sort of constructively challenge each other to raise the bar. And then make the difference. I think this is all about future possibilities and believing that those are sort of limitless for the firm. We really want to make exciting and meaningful progress, and to make that happen, we need to bring in informed opinions into the workplace. We need to be ambitious. We need to push ourselves to be the best we can be, not just for ourselves, but also for our clients, our customers, and the communities that we work in. I think it sums up nicely on our website where it says, create the future, don't wait for it to happen. Like I said, we're really trying to be at the top of our industry all the time. And the last one is committing to partnerships. So I touched on this a lot earlier, so I won't sort of go through it too deeply. But like I said, we're creating partnerships that benefit us all, and committing to sustaining partnerships for the long term. So our global business is really built on the commitment, ideas, and energy of our people. So in return, we want to really build a supportive and trusting environment where people can thrive and build exceptional careers with us. We want people here for the long term, and we want to give them deliberate growth. So I think all of that, in my personal experience, really is reflected in the culture of the company. Knight Frank has a very friendly, open door policy. And I think there's a true care for the business that you can see through all levels of seniority, not just right at the top. Um, as an example, within my first couple of weeks, I had been introduced to several of our proprietary partners who are the people that own the business. And everyone's always willing to give you the time of day, meet up with you, have a coffee with you if you need something, support you on projects that they can help with. So it's a really great environment to be in when you want to excel and grow your career. And like I said earlier, sustainability is an absolutely pressing issue at the moment. So I did want to address a little bit about our ESG ambitions. There's a QR code at the top which goes to the full report where you can read Knight Frank's ESG ambitions. But I thought I'd highlight the key areas for you just to give you an idea. So the first one is what is our purpose sort of in the ESG front? Well, we really want to use our influence in the real estate sector to promote sustainability, enhance people's lives, and protect the environment. And I think those focus areas are where we're really honing in on how we can make a difference as a business. So the first one of those is restoring the natural environment. So committing to net zero emissions, biodiversity restoration, and reducing pollution. There's also that piece on creating an inclusive workplace, which I'll expand on in a second, but that's really about fostering diversity, equity, inclusion, and employee well-being. And the last piece on strengthening communities. So really engaging in local community support through volunteering, but also impactful partnerships to make sure that our communities are growing stronger as we move forward. On a slightly different side as well, obviously we work client side a lot, advising. We really want to help our clients achieve whatever ESG goals they have for themselves. We have an absolutely fantastic research team. I would definitely recommend looking on the Knight Frank Intelligence Hub online. There's some really interesting reports written by world-class researchers at our firm. And we want to use that knowledge and that research that we've acquired ourselves in order to best inform our clients and like I say, make that difference. And the last thing in terms of governance, so ESG is integrated into our strategy, and we are trying to be with that structured governance and make sure that the reporting is transparent from our end. Like I said, that's just a quick snapshot, but if it's something you're particularly interested in, please do follow that QR code. There's loads more in-depth information about all of this included in there. Brill. So in terms of the diversity front, I know also that's really important for a lot of people. I just wanted to talk through our new diversity, equity, and inclusion team and what they're doing across the business. So there's a really nice quote from Hannah at the bottom there, who is our head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's a relatively new team, but a very strong one. And something that we're working on at the minute is setting up these communities around the business where people who are from minority groups can really feel connected with each other and feel like they have community within the business. So just a little bit of flavour, we have Embrace, who are about educating, motivating and building racial and cultural equity. We have Rise, which is about socioeconomic backgrounds, so those people that have sort of come from those lower socioeconomic backgrounds and are working their way up the corporate ladder. We also have Women at Knight Frank, which, as it says, is kind of self-explanatory, is supporting women within the business. And then we also have Ability. This is for, well, basically supporting varying abilities within the business. Unity, which is a really interesting one. You know, at the moment within businesses, you may have people from 4 different generations, from sort of boomers all the way down to Gen Z. So it's really important to think, you know, there's a lot of differences between those generations, and how actually can we harness each other's strengths and each other's ideas in order to work effectively together in the future. And the last one is Night Out, which is our LGBTQ plus support community. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour of what we're doing diversity, equity and inclusion wise. These groups are absolutely amazing. They often organise not only sort of trips out after work, but also information sharing sessions within the business. So for example, for Black History Month, Embrace do a really long series where they'll invite people in from outside the business to talk on issues of race, and same with all of our other ERG groups. So now we get into early careers opportunities. So if you want to get involved with Knight Frank, how do you go about this? Hopefully this will give you an idea of what opportunities we have available, how you can access them, and I'll also talk through some of my main tips at the end, just to give you an idea of what we personally look for in our recruitment processes. So something that's important, if any of you who are listening along are not from a real estate background, aren't doing a real estate related degree, we use a couple of terms within the industry, cognate and non-cognate. All this means is that cognates are people who have studied those RICS accredited degrees, so things like real estate, building surveying, quantity surveying, planning, and a non-cognate is someone who has studied literally any other degree. The reason we differentiate is because our pathways sometimes look a little bit different depending on your degree background, but I just want to reassure everyone that we do take candidates from both degree backgrounds, so don't let your degree subject be a hindrance to your application. Great, so these are our kind of 2 main graduate programs, I guess, that people would most know. The General Practice Valuations in London is our big program in Baker Street. Everyone who comes on this program is supported through the APC to become a chartered surveyor. And as I mentioned earlier, those non-cognates who haven't done a real estate degree will complete an MSc in real estate with UChem during their time with us. That's completely funded by the business. You're not expected to pay for that yourself. So depending on which route you take, whether you're a cognate or a non-cognate, your scheme might be 2 or 2.5 years long. So as it mentions at the bottom there, either 4 or 5 6-month rotations around the business. I think the valuations pathway is absolutely fantastic because it means that you can explore both residential and commercial within the business. So especially if you're someone that's not entirely sure, you don't want to kind of commit yourself to commercial or commit yourself to residential, this is a really nice way to have rotations in both areas and really see what suits you best and where your strengths lie. It's a really great program. Like I said, degree background is not a barrier to entry. So we take people from any degree background. And like I say, you get those 6-month rotations, which can be absolutely anywhere in the business. And as I showed you earlier, with our 130 service lines, that's a huge breadth of opportunity. Our general practice commercial is very similar. This program takes place in our UK city offices. So this year we're hiring in Edinburgh and Bristol. So if you're based in those areas or you're keen to move to those areas, it's a really good opportunity to find a role with Knight Frank that suits your sort of where you want to be living in the future. So it's pretty similar to our London scheme. The difference is that this is a commercial only program. If you'll cast your mind way back when I was talking about the commercial side of our business, you will have noticed that our city offices that are based all over the UK are commercial only. So that's why this is a commercial pathway. But again, you'll still get to do the APC, become a chartered surveyor. And again, any non-cognates on those programs will complete an MSc in real estate. This is a non-rotational scheme, so you don't do the structured 6-month rotations like you would do in London. However, that doesn't mean that you won't get to work with various teams. They will move you around based on projects that are going on within the business in order to make sure that you have the experience you need to pass your APC. So please don't feel you'll be disadvantaged. It's just they're not kind of 6-month structured rotations, but you do still get to work with a variety of different teams. So then some of our programs are a bit more specialised. I mentioned briefly earlier our rural graduate programme. You don't necessarily need a rural-based degree for this. What we're really looking for is people who have a passion or an interest for, estate management, for the countryside, for farming. We want people who are really passionate about those areas because obviously our clients are too. With the rural graduate scheme, you also have the opportunity to do a rural specific qualification, which is called the CAAV. So you'll be doubly qualified. And again, any non-cognates will get the opportunity to do a degree with Harper Adams as well. Again, this is a non-rotational scheme, but whichever office you're based in across the UK, you do get to work with people from across the office, not just in one particular team. Just to say, this year, our rural graduate programme is hiring in Cambridge and in Kent at the moment. So do check that out and see the details and maybe read up a bit more about our rural business if you are interested. There's lots of information online, and we actually just released our newest version of our rural report, which we release every year. So that's got some really interesting information about what the team's been up to and the sort of projects we work on. The next two are even more specialised, I would say, so building surveying and quantity surveying. Unfortunately for these programs, you do need to have an RICS accredited degree in the relevant area, otherwise we cannot accept your application. So these are very specific programs from those of you that are studying these degrees. Both of these roles are available in London, and then our building surveying program is also open in Bristol this year as well. So again, please do not apply for these if you don't have the relevant degree background, as we will unfortunately have to reject your application. Our graduate programs are actually live at the moment. So if you go on to Knight Frank Early Careers on our Early Careers website, you'll be able to read a bit more information about all of those and also find the links to apply. I do recommend having a really great look through our Early Careers website. It's just been redone with some fantastic information, some videos from our current graduates as well. So hopefully that will give you an idea of what life at Knight Frank is like for our graduates and what they've really enjoyed about being on the programme so far. Fab. So then I thought I'd also talk through a program that is completely bespoke to Knight Frank, which is our residential academy. So if you're more interested in the front office, sales and letting side of real estate, so you want to be that person buying and selling houses with our clients, then this is a really great way to access those entry-level positions. So this is a 2-year program where you get that hands-on experience in sales and lettings. We put you through 4 6-month rotations. So as it says on the side, 3 of your rotations are predetermined. You do client services, sales and lettings, but then your last rotation is elective. So that's decided through your interests, but also who has capacity available at the time. So that last rotation is an opportunity to maybe hone in on something that you've had a particular interest in. As it says here, at the end of each rotation, you do have the opportunity to present to our senior stakeholders who are sponsors of the program, and basically talk them through anything you've been working on during your 6-month rotation, anything you found interesting, and maybe what you've sort of learned from that 6 months. And as with any of our other programs, we put on regular training sessions and workshops to help you develop professionally and personally. And at the end of that 2 years, as it says at the bottom, we aim to transition you into a permanent role with one of our front office agencies or with one of our residential teams. Like I said, that's a program that's very specific to Knight Frank. It's an absolutely brilliant one. We've just had our first cohort graduate from the program, so to speak, and I'm pleased to say that they've all been placed in permanent roles with the company. So it's a really fantastic opportunity if you are more interested in that sales and lettings end. Something we get asked about a lot is actually, how do I get experience in real estate? Obviously, those people who are fortunate or privileged enough to get experience through friends and family, that's a great way to do it. But if you don't have any connections in the industry, I think the best way is to try and get on an internship or a work placement. We actually offer 2 types at Knight Frank over the summer. So I thought I'd talk you through a bit of the details of those, because those actually launched yesterday, which is really exciting. So our 4-week internship is a really great way to experience what it might be like on the graduate scheme. We'll basically, for the whole month of July, sit you with a team in Baker Street. That can be commercial or residential. And you'll get to do real work with that team. They'll treat you as a junior member, give you client work to do alongside them. We also this year organised quite a lot of presentations from around the business. So what that looked like was we had senior stakeholders from a lot of different service lines come and talk to our interns about actually what does their area of the business do, what's their journey been like, what do they think is exciting about their area of business, just so that although you're only going to be sat with one team, you can really get an experience of the breadth of things you could be doing as a graduate on the graduate scheme. The other thing that's important to note about the 4-week program is we do gather feedback after that program. And if your supervisor gives you positive feedback, there's an opportunity to be offered a graduate role off the back of that internship. So it's a really great way to also try and secure yourself a graduate role before you even go into final year, which is very exciting. And just to say, for the 4-week internship, we only accept applications from those in their penultimate year of study, so those in 2nd year going into 3rd year. Our 12-week work placement is a little bit different. So this runs from June to August, so over those 3 months, and it bases you in a sales and lettings office around London. So you get to work within the lettings team, you get to experience sort of the agency side of the business, very fast-paced, very exciting. And again, with this, there's lots of networking opportunities you'll have an opportunity to be part of. You'll also get extensive exposure to our real clients. I mean, you'll be contacting clients, trying to gather lettings and sales from them. You'll conduct viewings. You are going to be a real essential part of that business. And the great thing is that we obviously have a partner who runs each of our offices, and you do have access to the expertise of that partner. It's a great opportunity to learn from someone who is very successful at what they do, and sort of watch them work, which I think is always the best way to learn. And again, when looking between these programs, people will often ask me, well, which one should I apply for? And I think it's all about what you're more interested in, right? As I mentioned, if you're interested in that more sales and lettings area, if you think in the future the residential academy might be the graduate program for you, then the 12-week work placement is absolutely the way to go. But if you're more interested in the graduate route, I would say that the 4-week internship is going to give you a much better idea of what that looks like. So just think about actually, where do my interests lie? And I think that will lead you to which work placement or internship will suit you better. Well, and I thought I'd just give a bit of oversight of the application process too, because I know it can be daunting to people when they start off these things. they're not sure how long it's going to take them, what kind of processes they're going to be put through. So I thought I'd just outline it for you. It's very similar across all of our programs. So everything starts with an application form and a CV. We don't require cover letters for our programs. So you just need to attach a recent copy of your CV. Something I would say is really important here, I'm kind of branching into tips as well here. But with your application, if you are from a non-cognate background, so if you haven't done a degree that's relevant to real estate, I would really make sure that you put on your CV any pieces that will show us your sort of interest or investment in the sector. So for example, have you taken a free online course in real estate, or have you kept up to date with a podcast? I know Knight Frank have one, I believe it's called Intelligence Talks. Have you read reports on real estate? Are you keeping up to date that way? You really want to show that although you don't have the degree background, you are still really invested and interested in the sector. So make sure that's down on your CV. The next step is online testing. So we do run numerical and verbal online testing. We do send out a practice link with that. So if you've never done this type of testing before, you can have a go at it before we just launch you into the real thing. So hopefully that will give you an opportunity to try it out. And we do also offer reasonable adjustments for that. You put it in at the beginning of your form. So we'll be aware that you may need extra time. Next step is a video interview. So that's pre-recorded. For those of you who haven't done them before, basically the question comes up on the screen. You have 30 seconds or so to think about it, and then 2 minutes to answer the question. So our video interviews are 3 questions long each. And what I would say for the video interview when you're preparing is just make sure you're really clear on those soft skills that you possess that are going to be useful for the role. Have a think about what is it that actually interests you about Knight Frank and real estate. Those are the types of questions that are going to be asked. So really, really have a think about that before you start the video interview. And the last thing for final stage, I've left it a bit vague there because it does differ between program, but you'll either have a final interview or you'll have an assessment centre. So with the assessment centre, you have an interview, but you also will do a case study with us where we'll ask you to look at a few properties and produce recommendations based on a brief that you're given. Can't give too much information more than that, I apologise, but just because we want to keep that as something that you prepare on the day. So hopefully that gives you an idea of that process. Just to say, final stages usually do take place in person as well at the office that you'll be joining. So it's a really good opportunity to see the office, meet people from the business, and really get a feel of Knight Frank, and hopefully you'll feel like it's the place for you in the future. So I thought I'd talk through a little bit of application advice just to finish off, and I won't labour the point too much because I can see that we've got some questions come through. The first thing is researching the company. So I touched on this a bit beforehand. It's really, really important to know about the business you're applying for, and hopefully this presentation has given you a pretty good idea. But think about the company's history, culture, services, and people. You want to show people that you're invested in your application, right? So what is it specifically, for example, about Knight Frank that has enticed you to apply? Is it something to do with our ESG policies? Is it something to do with what we're doing in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space? Is it some projects that we've worked on? Is it because of some research on our research hub that you've read? Really make sure you do an in-depth dive to the company. You're not just skimming over the front page of the website and sort of reciting some facts off of there. Second thing is to keep up with the industry. This is absolutely key. Especially with real estate, it's a constantly evolving and moving industry. One really relevant example at the moment is obviously the budget that's being released. That's really going to change the landscape of real estate. We don't know how yet. So to impress your interviewer, it's always good to have read some reports, kept up to date with the news, really have some in-depth understanding of actually what are the pain points in the industry right now, or what considerations may we be making into the future. So again, I would suggest things like connecting with certain companies on LinkedIn. I would suggest reading reports, and I can only speak to Knight Frank, but we have reports on an absolutely huge amount of areas. So find something that you're really interested in. If chalets are of interest to you, we do a specific chalet report. We also have our flagship publication, which is called the Wealth Report. That's a really interesting one to read for a sort of holistic view. And also things like podcasts, programs, things like that. It just pays to know what you're talking about. That will really impress people. And the last thing is understanding the role. So, for example, if you're applying for the 12-week versus the 4-week program, you need to understand, okay, well, 12 weeks in sales and lettings, what does that mean? What is that about? What kind of skills am I going to need to be successful working in lettings in that sort of negotiator role? So have a think about, one, what do you want to get out of the opportunity? Why is it that you're applying? And two, what skills do you already have that are going to make you a good fit? And don't be discouraged if you don't already have experience. It's not something that's required for any of our programs. But have a think about those part-time jobs, those Saturday jobs that you've done. What soft skills, what transferable soft skills have you really developed? And how can you talk about those in relation to the 12-week program or the graduate scheme or whatever it is that you're applying for with us? So think about how your skills align across those. Great. So hopefully that has given you a comprehensive view at Knight Frank as a business, what it's like to work with us, what our culture is like, and also a bit about how you can access the industry through our early career schemes. So hopefully that was interesting, but I can see there's some questions. So I'll just swing through these. So the first one is, I have a first discipline in civil engineering and currently wrapping up my MSc in project management. Do I still qualify for a graduate internship opportunity in your firm? Yes, you absolutely do. So you could apply for either the 4-week or the 12-week internship as long as you're available during those times in the summer. Like I said, the 4-week, we only take penultimate year students, and we also do take sometimes people that are about to graduate off their program as well. So perfectly welcome to apply for that one. The 12-week, we take university students at any stage. So again, that one is very much open to you as well. So hopefully that answers your question. Someone said, what advice would you give to someone doing the online testing? My best advice is to practice as much as you can beforehand. There's a lot of really great resources, free resources available online where you can practice generic sort of numerical and verbal reasoning testing. Unfortunately, with online testing, it's that case of you only get better the more you do it. And so I wouldn't just launch straight into doing it once you get that email invitation. I would go away, maybe take a couple days, do some practices, see how you get on, see if there's anything you need to look up that you haven't understood from those practice tests you've done. And then just make sure you're somewhere really quiet and comfortable when you are doing that final testing, because often there's not an opportunity to redo things. So you do want to make sure you're giving yourself the best chance at success. And another question, so if I don't have any industry experience but have studied a relevant degree, am I still able to apply for a graduate role? Yes, absolutely. None of our programs require industry experience. Great if you can have that, if you do have the opportunity, if you do have the privilege to be able to have that experience. However, it's not required. We have people on our programs who had never had experience in real estate before they joined, so please do not let that deter you. Like I said, having a relevant degree is already great because it shows us you've taken the choice to spend 3 years studying that subject, which is great. But also, if you have read any reports, if you have engaged in any outside learning, anything like that, please do put that on your CV too, because it's always great for us to see. The next one is, do you provide sponsorship for work visa? Unfortunately, at the moment, we're unable to provide sponsorship for work visas, so you would need an indefinite leave to remain within the UK when you join our programs. I do apologise, but unfortunately, with the current state of things, that's how the early career schemes operate. However, we do have, as I mentioned, a very global presence. So there's always the opportunity to join Knight Frank in other countries aside from the UK as well. Our business is still absolutely top tier everywhere that we have presence. For general practice graduate programs, what does the APC involve? Will there be independent study and exams involved, or is it more skills and training based? So this is probably a question better for my counterpart, Claire, but to my understanding, which I have a very basic understanding of the APC, it's a little bit of both. So you do sit it's not quite an exam at the end. It's basically a discussion of what you've been working on with 2 or 3 assessors. We do provide training with a company called APC Success all the way through your 2 years, and we also make sure that you have a mock examination before you do your real one, just so that you have as much training experience as possible. Throughout the 2 years or 2.5 years that you're on the program, there's also almost a diary for you to fill in with the experience that you're getting and examples of what we call competencies, which are certain skills you need to demonstrate in order to pass your APC. So as you can tell, it's based a bit of both. If you want to read more about it, please do look on the APC website. You can find loads more information there about what the qualification entails. Someone asked, can you apply for unpaid work experiences to gain insight into the industry and break into the system? If yes, how does one go about it? So unfortunately, aside from the official early careers routes, our early careers team do not facilitate unpaid work experience, just because we have those paid internship opportunities available. However, if you wanted to reach out to someone in the business and see if they would give you a couple of insight days or would let you shadow them for a few days, please do feel free. I know that that's happened before, but unfortunately it doesn't go centrally through early careers. Those are opportunities that you have to seek out yourself with people within the business. So I would recommend looking up anyone in the business who's in an area that you're super interested in, reaching out to them, seeing if, even if they can't give you experience necessarily, can they actually spare some time to talk with you about what's the best step to take in your career, or what does their job actually look like in practice? Like I said, everyone at Knight Frank is super friendly, so if they have the time, they will definitely offer it. And someone asked, do you get any formal qualifications with the Residential Academy? So with the Residential Academy, we don't put those on the Residential Academy scheme through the APC, just because you don't need to be a chartered surveyor in order to work in the front office roles. So you don't get any formal qualifications. It's more on the job training, if that makes sense. So I think I'll just check the chat as well in case anyone's put any questions in there. So I think I've answered some of these already. So I'm doing the degree apprenticeship with commercial surveying pathway at the APC. Once I've finished this, I will have the APC. Does this mean I just need to apply for normal commercial surveyor positions, or would this be graduate schemes? Yeah. So if you're already APC qualified, you'll just need to apply for, as you say, commercial surveyor positions within the company. If you go onto the Knight Frank website and click on careers, you'll be taken to the portal for our talent acquisition team, who are the ones who do all of the hiring outside of early careers. So that's a really good place to look for that. They're also all very active on LinkedIn. So if you connect with someone from the talent acquisition team on LinkedIn, they'll be sure to point you in the right direction of who's sort of hiring for those positions and whether there's anything available at the moment that suits you. So that's the best path if you're already APC qualified. Can an individual with years of experience in real estate management outside of UK but just completed an MSc degree in project management apply for the graduate programme, or is it restricted to new BSc graduates? It's absolutely not restricted to new BSc graduates, so please don't let that deter you. All I would say is if you do have years of experience, just be aware that you will be starting at sort of the graduate level again. So we can't put you in as a graduate, you know, in a senior position, if that makes sense. So you will need to start from the bottom. Whereas if you already have that experience and you want to apply, as I mentioned in response to the last question, to our talent acquisition team, then that might be a better route for you if you already have that practical experience. Someone asked, how does Knight Frank support graduates during their APC? And how often do those who do the 4-week internship achieve the graduate role at the end of the internship? Great question. So I'll answer the internship one first. So quite a lot of our interns usually end up with graduate positions at the end, because you go through, like I said, like I kind of explained earlier, a fairly rigorous screening process to even get onto the 4-week internship. So we do have quite high quality interns that join us over the summer. So I think, I'm trying to think this year what our percentage was. So I think 2/3 of our interns this year got graduate offers, which is quite high, so 66%. So there's a very good opportunity if you work hard on that 4-week internship that you will get the graduate position. And the second part was, how do we support graduates during their APC? So again, probably a better question for my counterpart Claire, but her diary is always open. She's always having meetings with early careers individuals from around the business to support them. Like I mentioned earlier, we work with a company called APC Success who run sort of bespoke training sessions to help support you through your APC. We also have mock examinations. We also support you by assigning a counsellor who will look after you during those 2 years that you're doing the APC. It will be someone who's qualified themselves, so can really advise you on best practice and next steps to take. And I'm pleased to say that our APC pass rate is usually well above the average. So I'd like to say that it's working. And then I think this is the last question. So is there an opportunity to work at any of the international branches or transfer to international branches at some point if successful in the company? The simple answer to that is yes. The more complex answer is it depends on what opportunities are available at what time. So I couldn't guarantee that you'd be able to go to a place of your choice whenever you wanted. However, we do have roles available in branches across the world. So there is always that opportunity for international movement if it's available. And sometimes we've even had graduates attain roles once they're APC qualified in, for example, our UAE or our Dubai offices. So there definitely is that global movement if you want it. Great, so I think that was all the questions. If you guys do have any other questions, always feel free to connect and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll always try and my best to get back. And like I said, all of the roles are now live on the website, so please do check them out. It'd be great to see some applications from you. And thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate your time.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Melinda. And we hope that you found that insightful, and it gives you a bit of more of a direction of, what you want to kind of apply for, and give you that kind of motivation as well to go out and actually kind of apply for those internships and graduate programs as well. But that was all from us today. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you so much again for everyone for joining.
Thanks so much. Take care.